Here's our final grid for the day, the Mitsubishi Fuso starting grid, and it reflects the finishing positions of race 2. Garth Tander, of course, the victor, closely followed by Mark Winterbottom. Bright and Todd Kelly will share the second row. And as we run through the grid, we'll let you enjoy it, see where your favourite driver is. But Neil, just to revisit the second race, it was a bizarre situation, wasn't it? In the wet, they behaved themselves, it came dry, and everything broke loose.
Well, yeah, I think it's the fact that it was a semi-wet, semi-dry scenario with slick tyres, wet verges, and then people try to pass and the safety car comes out and they all bunch up together. That's where the trouble brews. Some findings from the investigating and prosecuting officer from race number 2, just in case you're interested. They looked into the James Courtney Mark Scaife nose-to-tail incident. No breach of rules there. They did penalise Andrew Jones. He's gone back a spot on the grid. They did also penalise Dean Canto, but that didn't actually affect his starting position here.
Ready to go. Third and final one.
Very greasy conditions down there at the moment. Very difficult. Visibility's dropped. It's actually raining as we speak.
Sideways from Will Davison. It was a good start. Lowndes had the tail out and they've hit the wall. Who is it? It's England. Bargwanna. Bargwanna's gone around.
This is going to be, wow, this is going to be a disaster. You can see it coming and coming and coming. It was Ingle and Bargwanna. I'm surprised there are not more cars involved there.
That was wild stuff. Plenty of them getting sideways.
Actually already showing a full course yellow on the screen here, although I'm not seeing evidence of it on the racetrack. So yes, I think they now have gone full course yellow. No surprise. Just while they sort all this out, I'll just go back to that little list. Courtney Scaife, no breach of rules. Canto McConville at turn 7, there was a breach of rules. Pit lane penalty equivalent applied to the result for Dean Canto. Incident between Jason Richards and Lee Holdsworth, turn 2, no breach. Will Davison, a yellow flag incident, no breach, as we look here at Andrew Jones, who was one of the drivers that also copped the pit lane drive-through penalty equivalent. Now, on board with Russell Ingle, Jason Bargwanna on the right, and you can see the two of them trying to negotiate a bit of road that wasn't one car width wide, and eventually Bargwanna tips around.
Here it is again. Bang. Ingle into the wall. They're both joined. Nose to rear. And the rest is easy to see. And then Stephen Johnson, Marcus Marshall were also involved there, and it left Andrew Jones facing the wrong way into the wall. Both Tasman cars were almost in that.
That's right. Stephen Johnson. Stephen's actually in the pit lane now. And if you're up the back there with Mark Scaife and John Bower, you'd just be closing your eyes, hoping not to be tangled up, Greg.
A couple of the team managers are already on the radio warning about possible oil. It sounded as though the oil may be in the lane, Neil, so I'm not sure if it's come from Stephen Johnson's car. Ambient temperature is currently 16 degrees. On track, it's 18. Just the post-race 2 checks that the Toll HSV dealer team wanted to update you there. It revealed a broken rear anti-roll bar on Rick Kelly's Commodore, and when you consider that he did a pretty good job in that race to drive around it, a classic catch from him as well at turns 1 and 2, and that collected the big pond sign, which blocked the radiator and the front of the splitter temporarily. Now, the water temperature on Kelly's car rose to 129.5 degrees. That's what it peaked at. The oil temperature at 182. The team at Toll HSV took all 8 spark plugs out. They checked the bore, the pistons, and the rings for any scoring or change in colour, which might indicate damage from overheating. Doesn't seem to be any. The Toll team say it should be right for this race for our series leader, Rick Kelly. Darryl?
I managed to get a talk with Campbell Little, Craig Lowndes, chief engineer, to find out why that team struggled, or Craig struggled during that race with visibility. And he did a fantastic job to move from 27th in those conditions to 9th in race 2. He said he couldn't see because the washer on the windscreen wiper wasn't working. Then the team failed and overlooked the situation to clean that windscreen during stop. He said the car was fantastic on a drying circuit during that line as it was drying, but it was not good on a dry track. He had like a 70% wet setup in that car for this race.
It's Tander leading the way. Will Davison is under siege from one of the Toll cars, where they hold position, and Lowndes is right in the mix.
a shift now in the compulsory pit stop window opening lap, which will now be lap 10 because of the delay under the safety car. That smoke's coming, I think, from the Bargwanna car as a result of the contact with Russell Ingall. And Russell Ingall's just been black flagged, so he's going to cop a pit lane drive-through, and it's for the infringement against car number 10. I'm just hearing that message on the Race Director channel at the moment, so they did determine that it was pretty clear-cut.
Top two in the championship are going blow for blow here. Rick Kelly and Craig Lowndes, and Kelly wins this drag race down the back straight. Lowndes was muscling him up into the hairpin, and now he tries to do it again. He's given him a nudge, trying to unsettle the new championship leader. Ingall's in, serving that penalty.
Remember, nobody's got anything in the way of temperature in their tyres or brakes at the moment. 58.9, fastest lap for Tander. He's got 0.6 of a second on Winterbottom. This is the battle for 6th and 7th, but there's more at stake with the championship.
Up into this incredibly tight turn 4 hairpin.
See, a bit unusual to be on the brakes, downshifting, and on the radio at the same time. Frustration there for Craig Lowndes.
Paul Dumbrell's in the background, not too far away. Then Stephen Richards, and Jason Richards is coming up into the mix as well. Top three, Tander, Winterbottom, Bright. Then Todd Kelly, a little further back. There he is all by himself, and Will Davison having a great run. We ran out of time in race 2 to see if Winterbottom had anything to offer Garth Tander. We've got loads of time now. Let's see if the man who's third in the championship, second in this race, and incidentally, out of these three guys, you can see on your screen right now, whoever wins this race wins the round. So there's a lot on the line in this third and final event.
Listen to the wet weather tyres groaning on the road as they were under brakes down there to the turn 4 hairpin. Fastest split to the middle sector for Jason Bright on this lap, but there's nothing in it between these top three. Ingall served his penalty. Oh. Rick Kelly looking down the inside of Will Davison, no space there. He's just skipped away fractionally now from Craig Lowndes.
He handled that pressure. Craig was giving him a good workover. That was intense pressure. So he survived that, and now he's moving on to try and elevate himself at the expense of Will Davison, who, like James Courtney, has been impressive on their debut performance at this track.
Neil, as you know, in these wet races, electrics can often be an issue, and so it was for James Courtney in race 2 today. The alternator, in fact, in car 4, the Stone Brothers Falcon, wasn't working for the entire race, and he almost didn't finish the race. They replaced the alternator, they replaced the rear bumper and screen after he was off at coming through towards turns 1 and 2, but it ran with less than 10 volts for the entire race. And at one point it was down to about 7.5 volts. Anything less than 7 and you're in all sorts of trouble. And James nearly didn't finish race 2. Darryl?
Jason Bargwanna had the contact with Russell Ingall, who's just served his drive-through, has also copped his own penalty with the damage from that incident. The guard has rubbed on the left rear tyre here. It's shredded, it's punctured. They've had some time trying to get the captive wheel nut on that thread. They're still getting the panel out for Bargwanna, so he's spending quite some time in the pits as well.
Davison, Rick Kelly, Craig Lowndes. This is going to hot up very soon.
You often see electrical issues in wet races, and the cars eventually run off song as they start to take power out of the battery because the alternator's not making the spark required to get all the jobs done. So eventually start sucking grunt out of the battery. And James was a bit lucky to get home in that one. Let's have a look at the Zinger replay, and folds the mirror back, does Will Davison, as he almost ran out of road on the exit of turn 3. Todd Kelly, fastest sector split to the middle sector in car 22. And still this little stoush brewing here between Will Davison and Rick Kelly. Lowndes actually eased back up onto the back of car number 15 now.
Who is going to lose their patience first? Who can execute a move the best? You ride with Lowndes.
very similar scenario to the first race. Sprinkling rain at the start, then it's eased away. A less wet groove in the racetrack. A shift in the compulsory pit stop window. There's still a little bit of spray appearing on the screens, but there are no plumes behind the cars at the moment. And the wets are very robust in these conditions. Remember, we looked at them earlier in race 2. You don't see a lot of feathering, a lot of discoloration in the carcass of the tyre. They do a remarkable job, the Dunlop Control wets, in these conditions. It's still way too early for a dry tyre.
Nearly exactly right. I just heard Lowndes relaying the message to his team. He said 7 and 8 starting to get a line. I've just come up to the pit wall here and you can hear the wet tyres howling on the dry line down in low, but then it turns wet on the exit, so still very intermediate around this circuit.
Russell Ingall's done the fastest lap of the race down in 24th. He's done a 57.5. Very speedy, dramatically quicker than most of those around him. The only other fella that's done a time like that is Todd Kelly, 57.6.
Back up front, Tander, Winterbottom, Bright, and now Todd Kelly has been able to come up on the back of Jason Bright, courtesy of that fast lap he just laid down on the previous lap. So the 3-car battle now becomes 4. Winterbottom turns up the heat on Tander. Watch this.
It's right on him.
Just talking with Rod Barrett, the commercial director from Ford Performance Racing, and they are so pleased with this young man. First year at FPR and really hasn't put a foot wrong. And now is a championship contender with 2 rounds remaining. And could very well go on and win a race and perhaps this round. Still a long way to go though. On lap 15 of 58.
57.6 for Tander, 57.6 for Winterbottom, and 57.2 for both Jason Bright and Todd Kelly. So they've got some pace at the moment that they can't quite use.
I asked Jason Bright in between races 2 and 3, what happened when you were leading and all of a sudden it just went? And he said, boy, the car just got away from me. I had several lockups, let it go, released, on the brake, off the brake. And he said, the steering input, and he said, you should have seen the steering trace. He said, I was all over the shop.
Driving down the side of the road.
So that...
Stay calm and concentrate on what we're doing. We're looking at it, we've got it all on TV.
Greg?
Just to add on Will Davison in the thick of that battle there, boys, and listening to the radio chat between Craig Lowndes and his man Campbell Little. Will Davison has been doing a great job this weekend. He said the mission really has just been to keep it clean, do the best with what they've got, and hasn't he been doing that? They went with a compromise setup on this car in race 2 today. Not a full wet setup, not a full dry. And Will found that on the wet tyres in the early part of the race, he didn't have quite a strong car, but as the dry line appeared, so his Falcon got better. So good job by Will Davison this weekend.
And
Steve Johnson rejoins.
This is his teammate after a lengthy period in the pits. There's a tyre rubbing on that right rear guard. And he was involved, if you've just joined us, Stephen was involved in the lap 1 incident right here.
Todd Kelly's done the fastest lap of the race now, 56.9, although this particular lap to the middle sector, Garth Tander looks like he might knock that off. So you heard the conversation before with Craig Lowndes and Campbell Little, and Campbell immediately just trying to counsel him to not react too much emotionally. There's a little bit of frustration in Craig's demeanour at the moment as a result of the incident on the Gold Coast and the way things have unfolded this weekend. At the moment, just solid points are the go. He's concerned that is Craig's, as he feels that Rick's driving down the inside of the road. Warren Luff off at 6 on the outside there, pretty easily done. There's a little bit of patching around the racetrack, some epoxy as Stephen Johnson goes back into 1 or 2 spots around the track where it broke up. He's just giving him a little tap in the middle of turn 4 there.
He's been doing that lap after lap after lap, just trying to rattle Rick Kelly's cage. And if you didn't hear the news, the big news during the week, as we check out a Zinger replay involving the Fujitsu Ford of Warren Luff and Shane Price in the Team Sirame Commodore. The big news during the week was that Craig Lowndes admitted guilt in terms of bringing the sport into disrepute, comments made after the final race at Indy on the Gold Coast, and was fined $15,000, $5,000 of which is suspended until the end of the year.
56.47 for Garth Tander that lap. As I said before, it looked like it was on target to be a quick one, and he's got precisely a 1 second margin now over Winterbottom. And James Courtney's playing the bold game now. They've brought him in, I understand, to whack slick tyres on the car. Sector split to the first timing line for Jason Bright. Looks good on this lap. Here's James. Again, everybody's dealing with this very wet concrete on the working apron.
Bit damp underfoot, as you say, Neil, on that wet apron. Good work here by the Stone Brothers crew. Slick tyres all round. Courtney the first to make the gamble. We spoke to Paul Dumbrell between races 2 and 3, and he was one of the first, along with Mark Scaife, to gamble with those dry tyres, and Dumbrell felt that he went too early in race 2. Has James Courtney and the Stone Brothers team gone too early here?
And everybody will use James now as the measuring device. They'll watch him very carefully. It will be painful for him for a lap or two trying to get those dries to work. 56.27 now for Mark Winterbottom, new fastest lap of the race, as Jason Bright and Todd Kelly are starting to really amp it up here.
And as well as his own... Todd Kelly not happy with Jason Bright.
Oh, that's the reason why, because Brighty got very wide on the exit of 7 and Todd's complaining on the radio. Incidentally, Shane Price is going to get a drive-through penalty for that incident that we saw with Warren Luff up at turn 6.
As well as his own championship points, Jason Bright is playing a valuable role here in protecting his teammate Mark Winterbottom, who is up ahead and needs to keep scoring as many points as he can as this individual battle heats up.
Jason Bright just looks like he's got a car that breaks into a bit of oversteer more readily than Todd's car at the moment. See, he slid through turn 3, he slid into turns 1 and 2. It may be just hurting his rear tyres a little bit as Todd goes down the inside. I think he's got track position. Oh, can he stop it? He'll use his door to do it. Bit of a pinball job, but he's got the job done. Will they deem it legal?
Near the rattle guns in the background, the pit window is of course open for the compulsory stop for tyres.
Lee, that was Will Davison, has just been in the pits as well, and Rusty spoke about the setup on that car earlier. Will said he pretty much stayed with that dry setup with springs, but just made the car softer through the anti-rolls and bars and just had to adjust them on the run. He's gone to slick tyres, but you look at the times that they were doing in race 2 before they went to the slick tyres, which I think from memory, Neil, were around 54, so some guys have gone a lot earlier this time.
See, Todd's gone to the wet side of the track here, so he can't stop the car. This is the frustration of driving on a semi-wet dry track. If you come out of the groove, if you've got a faster car, you're ultimately compelled to have a bit of a lunge. But when you come out of the groove, there's no grip available. So they actually both got away with it. But a bit of frustration on the radio after they came off the corner from both boys. 18.8 is the new fastest first sector split for James Courtney, verifying that a slick tyre is the thing to have at the moment. So we'll watch and see what lap time James does. He's down in position 23. 37.7, the new fastest sector split to the end of the second sector. And that's what everybody in the lane will be focused on. Some of them have already taken their own action anyway. They're more than satisfied that it's time to make the jump. But the key runners at the top of the field, they'll study this carefully. They'll also look at the wind, where the weather's coming from. 55.5 for James. So in comes Winterbottom and Kelly. They've got their cues. And Lowndes.
The FPR team did a wonderful job yesterday with Mark Winterbottom to get him out ahead of Rick Kelly. Let's see if they do a slick job here. Gone to slick tyres.
Go, 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 go!
The race here between the Holden Racing team and Ford Performance Racing. Winterbottom gets by, Lowndes in for a stop. Todd Kelly now leaves pit lane, and there was a radio communique from Mark Scaife at the same time wanting to know if he could pit in car 2. They told him to stay out a little longer.
Ingles in it again, as you can see.
So the slicks appear to be about anything between half to 3/4 of a second quicker at this point in time. Will Davison just did a 55 neat. He went on to slicks too, didn't he? So he's motoring along handsomely at the moment.
Russell Ingle, second Stone Brothers car to be serviced.
And this will trigger a massive happy hour. Once everybody starts seeing those numbers bump up onto the timing screen, away they'll all go. Pretty stiff breeze from the north at the moment as well. They're all going to have to keep a bit of an eye on the weather to the north and the northwest. Tander
came in the race lead.
So where everybody has to tippy-toe on slick tyres. Wet track, no temperature in them at all. No tyre warmers allowed in V8 Supercar.
We'll keep an eye out for where Mark Winterbottom is. Look at this, Bright versus Courtney. Ford v Ford.
well and truly in James' favour with the extra tyre grip that he's got at the moment as they came off the hairpin. What's it like under brakes? James has got position. And they're bringing Jason in this lap. So Phil Keane just called him in this lap. Right now, Bright acknowledges.
Now we need to keep an eye on where Bright comes out in relation to Tander and his own teammate Mark Winterbottom. Will Davison is flying 54.37.
Wait.
I asked Jason Bright earlier, how did he close up that gap on Garth Tander after he said, I just had all my heat up, I was into my rhythm, and Garth wasn't. I caught him fairly rapidly. Only to throw it all away, running off the track, and Tander went on to claim the victory. Now there's his teammate Winterbottom, and Todd Kelly immediately behind, and Tander right there. So
the green compulsory pit stop light off for Jason Bright. See that pit lane exit? Car number 18, I believe Will Davison has gone off the road. There are a few drivers that were cutting the corner on the pit lane exit yesterday that raised the attention of race controller, and they said, no more, we don't mind you just clipping the corner, but we don't want to see cars across on the grass. So several of the drivers were spoken to after that yesterday. Well, this is the reason why he went off.
Oh my goodness.
Terrible shame given the pace that Will Davison's been showing. Fortunately, no contact with the wall, but a lot of time burnt away.
That is very awkward.
Which one of the Brightech cars was it?
They're both there. I don't know. I didn't see whether it was 25 or 26. That was very awkward. While at the front of the field, they are getting faster and faster and faster, and that's what happened. Brad Jones right in the mix with Steve Owen and Lee Holdsworth.
It's in the escape road area at the hairpin turn 4, and unfortunately the ground's soft just past that little extended apron. It's bogged the Steve Owen car, and we have gone full course yellow. And this is Russell Ingall doing the big sprint car approach into turn 6.
There's another
and he got away with it. Amazing. And Will Davison, Shane Price, big lock brake, and massive nose-to-tail job there between James Courtney and Shane Price as a result of Price initially locking up. Wow.
They should tell you out. We just finished the race.
Frustrated Steve Owen there, as you can imagine. We're under caution. Tander is the race leader. There was a massive margin between Todd Kelly and Jason Bright of 9 seconds. Jason Bright responded with the fastest lap of the race 2 laps ago, a 52.96. But guess what? He gets a get out of jail card because they will all compress. The field will compress. They'll all be nose to tail again and get a second shot at it. We're working lap 30 at the moment. And here comes the Cat Ford to tag onto the back of Todd Kelly. Winterbottom it's been a very spirited performance from him, really starting to offer Garth Tander something, but Tander's been brilliant up front, been very solid, thoroughly loves racing at this track. He clean swept the round last year, all 3 races, and of course the round win going to the Toll HSV dealer team man. So they get a chance to get their breath back, compose themselves. I reckon that guy there needs some composing. Will Davison will be furious after being hit down the back straight and sent off while he was setting fast lap after fast lap and was well and truly consolidating his position in the top 5. Mark Scaife has been a troublesome weekend for this guy. Pole position number 4 of the year, and then just drama after drama after drama. Craig Lowndes, meanwhile.
Craig, what do you need? What are you looking for?
He is currently 6th.
Look after the rear tyres because we've got such a long run.
Asking Craig what he needs to make the car quicker.
28 to go. They're probably okay for those settings.
They're just giving him some advice on the anti-roll bar settings to try and improve the drive of the car off the hairpin and a couple of other spots, just a little loose in the rear of the car.
Neil, I've just had a word to Paul Forgy, the engineer on the Gelwen Ford of James Courtney, who tells me there's no temperature concerns currently for that car, despite the incident with the Sirame entry, and also the sister car in the Stone Brothers stable, that of Russell Ingall. He's obviously driving with that steering off centre. as a result of the first lap altercation with Jason Bargwanna, but there's no major issues. Russell is just driving around the problem.
You saw in the background of that previous shot with Campbell Little and Roland Dane from 888 Race Engineering in the background was Jamie Whincup. Of course, a top 10 championship driver, winner of the Clipsal 500 and Bathurst, and sadly not competing today after a massive crash yesterday that took out the Bathurst winning car. And this is just Steve Owen cleaning the car off racing line.
Yeah, that's the important message there. He's allowed to do that, just provided he doesn't dump all the rubbish on the race line, which can then disadvantage another competitor. But Steve, with presence of mind there, making sure that he was left on the racetrack.
Just to finish off the 888 story is that they have been working, the Whincup side of that garage have been working overtime to get the spare chassis ready for Bahrain. That chassis is here. It's in the garage downstairs. There's Jamie. He's bored. He wants to be out there. Knows he can be out there, should be out there, and he's leaning on the spare chassis. Boys have done a wonderful job to get it as far as they can here, and then that will be packed away and sent to Bahrain. We'll be there in 2 weeks' time for a landmark event in the history of V8 supercar racing. Shanghai last year, Bahrain this year. And we're ready to go racing. Tander's on the gas early. Great restart, Garth Tander. He was ready and got on it very, very fast. But watch the third car. Todd Kelly has been consistently the quickest man since he stopped. And he's really got some momentum. Off.
On a long way off too, down at turn 2. Lee Holdsworth and Brad Jones.
These are the two
miles
guys
off the road.
They were in the previous incident we saw.
Look at that, look how dry it is just beneath the surface of that dirt there, and more rubbish onto the racetrack. And drivers being warned by their crew chiefs now to be careful of that area of the track when they come back on. You can see the Holdsworth car up there in the background of the shot, just dust and dirt everywhere. Campbell Little just warning Craig Lowndes of that fact. There's a lot of garbage on the road.
Here's your order. It's Tander, Winterbottom, Todd Kelly, Bright, then Rick Kelly, then Lowndes is 6, Stephen Richards 7, 8 is Davison. Here's the Zinger replay.
Oh, that was all a bit ugly for Lee. Crossed up, had it locked up. See, he's on the gas. You can see the black smoke coming out of the car. He's down the inside on the wet. Brad had nowhere to go other than into the ploughed area on the outside of turn 2. And it's actually a bit of a miracle that they both got out. And then look at this under brakes. He deposits plenty of dirt into the braking area at turn 4. Look at it all coming out through the centre of the wheel. The brake rotors and pads and hubs and bearings and things, going to love that.
Kelly's got by Winterbottom and easily, and now he's under pressure from his teammate. So Kelly may have something for Garth Tander up front, while the FPR duo are left to fight it out for third.
And Lee Holdsworth is going to be black flagged. He'll get a drive-through penalty for nailing Brad Jones at turn 2. Todd Kelly's blazing at the moment. That car's fast, 53.7 that lap. He did a 53 even earlier on. 52.9 is the fastest lap of the race, Jason Bright. Look at the amount of dirt and garbage up there. And I think actually Todd Kelly took advantage of that. That is a crazy amount of dirt on the road.
Did it round the outside.
Well, and I think it actually has impacted oh, Mark Scaife with damage to the front right this time and a big pile of dirt. What I was trying to spit out there is it actually changed the order of things, the amount of dirt on the road up there, which is the very thing that the officials are unhappy about when someone comes back on. But Holdsworth, I think, serving his penalty not for that so much as the incident with Brad.
Well, Greg's down there. Greg, Mark Scaife, we're just watching the Zinger replay.
Something's broken.
It looks like exactly, Neil, something is broken. There is some damage to the front right of this car, a battle scar of some kind with either another race car or a wall somewhere. Maybe that has triggered the ultimate breakage. In fact, the rim is quite badly damaged too, Neil. It's scarred in various places and the metal is actually damaged on that rim. So tough weekend for the man who was the pole sitter for this round. Can you believe it?
You can't. He's got the luck that his teammate had earlier in the year. Meanwhile, that guy we're talking about is really flying.
While you were talking, Greg, Mark was on the radio to Rob Starr just describing it. I didn't pick up who the other driver was, but there was contact with another car, and that was the reason. I think it was at turn 7. Car 33 serving its penalty at the moment. Lee Holdsworth, 0.5 of a second the margin, and closing. Just the computer tell us this time through 0.3 of a second between Tander and Kelly, and you can see it anyway. There's Lee Holdsworth, still with more dirt coming out of that car.
It was everywhere. A little further back in the field, we detailed down to Davison in 8th, Courtney is 9, Dumbrell is 10, and a good run from Cam McConville in 11. Jason Richards in that brand new car is in 12th.
I think they're actually black flagging Lee Holdsworth again. I just heard race director Tim Schenken say that it still stands.
Oh, no!
Again, big nose to tail shunt with Will Davison. This time, though, I think he's actually going to be, yeah, look at that big damage around the front of the gel went forward. That has knocked the front of that car around, so...
That is not a tap. That was...
It's a major drilling.
And James Courtney has done that several times, not to that extent, but earlier in race 2, he hit Mark Scaife there. Then he hit someone earlier in this race. So that's the third occasion to my memory. So it's been a bit of a hot spot for James.
Yeah,
nothing.
And a safety car will be deployed. I don't know why, but you're right. He seems to have had a few nose-to-tail incidents down there today.
Okay, just try to turn the fans off. The battery's got plenty of voltage there. Just try it again.
Jason Bright has just set the fastest lap of the race at a 52.8. So he's closing in on his teammate. The weather seems to be closing in on us as well. We'll keep a watchful eye on that with 20 laps to go. Do we get a wet end to this one? Safety car has been deployed. WPS Chrysler out on track. And remember, the key thing here for Garth Tander, if he wins this race, he wins the round. Darryl.
Lee, the wet weather conditions and the drying and the variable conditions make it so difficult. But you have a look at this here from where Lee Holdsworth was in the pits. He'd already completed 3/4 of a lap and blown the dirt out of that car. This is what came out of it just sitting in pit lane here. So you imagine arriving at a hairpin or somewhere on this circuit near with the cars leaving the circuit and rejoining again. It must be difficult.
And I half suspect that could be what happened up the hairpin when all those leading places started to change, and then we subsequently saw another incident with James Courtney because clearly there's no grip available on that stuff.
Grab a spare broom, Daz. Help him out.
I'm good at housework.
Mark Scaife, what's happened here? Who was the contact with? How did it unfold?
That was with Canto. We were having the Tasmanian Grand Prix for 20th, 15 miles away, and in the braking area, I was up the inside and we made contact wheel to wheel. It's one of those ones where when you make contact like that, it just grabs the steering and it won't steer now. So the right hand front wheel is buggered.
A few blokes have brought some dirt and the like onto the track, Mark. Did that make your job harder? What were the track conditions like at that time?
Well, what you've got to do, Rusty, is when everyone's on slick tyres then, it's only a one-lane racetrack. You end up that you've got to stay on the dry bit. So it's very, very hard to pass. And if you pass, it's pretty bold because it's damp on the bit that you're on. So, it was one of those ones where it's obviously a tough day when it's like that. Our luck's got to change, Rusty. It can't be like that all the time.
It sure does. Close the Tasmanian chapter, mate. Good luck in Bahrain.
I'm not sure how much Garth is going to want to fight too aggressively here at the moment. He's on target for a round win. And if Todd does have extra pace and is that fresh raindrops on the camera down there at turn 4, because Todd's very quick at the moment. However, we've seen how difficult it is to step out of the dry groove and then do something on the wet track. Tander's made a great restart. Maybe he's got the pace to respond. He won't want to yield, that's for sure. Not in a hurry.
On each occasion we've had a restart, Garth has been very, very quick. As soon as it's come green, he is on the button. But Todd Kelly's going with him, no doubt about that. Then it's Mark Winterbottom, then Jason Bright, Rick Kelly, Craig Lowndes, Stephen Richards, Paul Dumbrell. Good showing there from both Jack Daniels Commodores. And then Cam McConville is running in a high 9th with Jason Richards for Tasman Motorsport in the 10. And then Paul Morris for Team Suramay. He'll be pleased with that.
And Lee, it's been like a game of poker as far as Garth Tander is concerned. He's not showed his hand on the restarts the same way each time. He's not doing a trademark restart. He kept them all bunched up on one of them. On another, he was on the gas very, very early and getting the boys to play follow the leader. Just quickly, James Courtney, we believe that that off with Will Davison may have been, or what may have contributed to him hitting Will Davison, is some of the dirt and debris up on that circuit. Paul Forgy, his engineer, tells me that's maybe what's exacerbated the stop for him there. Darryl?
Rusty, as you know, down here, there's not much rain, Neil, down in pit lane. There's a bit of a mist with this low cloud coming in, but there is dark clouds rolling in with this strong wind. So the race with around 15 laps to run, we may see some showers coming. There are some in the distance, but a little further away.
Where's the wind coming from at the moment, Darryl?
Looks like it's blowing from the north, so, yeah.
We've seen it variable yesterday. It was howling from the north on Friday, and there was an expectation that there could be thunderstorms in the area. Oh, there's a bit of thunder up there between Paul Morris and Jason Richards, and around goes Richards at the hairpin.
That was for 10th, that was for position. And look at all of the positions Jason Richards has lost.
And Bright having a look at his teammate, and done. Mark makes room for him wisely. So the two leaders, 16, 22, Tanner and Kelly, just easing away a little bit now. In fact, Todd just did the quickest lap of the race, a 52.77. Here's the replay, the Zinger replay of Morris on Jason Richards, gets him in the left rear, and around goes the Firepower Commodore. So Todd Kelly, as it was a little earlier, as they get a couple of laps into a stint, looks like he's got a pretty quick car, but it's only just quicker in a couple of places. Garth is very strong in a couple of areas that makes him safe. Like you look here and he doesn't look vulnerable at all. More trouble at the hairpin for Will Davison and Paul Morris. Both of them have had previous incidents here today. And car 3 has just been given a driving infringement. So Jason Richards.
Sounds like there's a drive-through for 67 as well for Paul Morris, guys. So the officials are on to all this action here. Black flag now being displayed, and the board says 67.
Yeah, you're right, Rusty. What I heard was the back end of the message. So it was for the incident on car 3, which made more sense to me. And that one there, Paul got all crossed up on his own, and then one of the WPS cars, Max Wilson, tags Will Davison, and they all do synchronised spinning.
Will Davison must be saying, do me a favour, give me a break. That's the second time he's been nailed up there. The interesting point about Max Wilson I mentioned before we went to the last break, he started last from pit lane, and he's now running 10th.
There's the drive-through for Paul Morris, as expected, for his role in the incident up at the hairpin with Jason Richards. Garth Tander's just got that little bit of pace again now, 36.4. He will have maybe made a little change to the anti-roll bars. Maybe his tyres have just come into phase a bit better. Maybe snuck the brake bias adjuster along a little bit. Whatever it is, he's just resisting the pressure a little bit better now.
Now, if they finish as they are right now, points will look like this.
Max Wilson drive-through penalty for his role in the incident up at the hairpin.
That's for hitting Will Davison.
There you go.
Right
His run in the top 10 now is all over, and fastest first sector split then for Todd Kelly, 18 seconds, 0.08.
Wondering how the championship positions have moved around here in Tasmania. Well, the obvious one is Rick Kelly is the new leader. Lowndes lost the lead, he sits second, and it's been a very, very frustrating round for Jamie Whincup, who not that long ago was in the top 5 in the championship. He's now been pushed out of the top 10.
Lots of Hollywood numbers appearing late in the race, which generally doesn't work that way with tyre condition. Oh, scary stuff there for Lowndes, but beautifully controlled. Didn't apply any lock to the car, kept it straight, got back on. That was wild. 52.71 Garth Tander. Because it's so cool.
Just settle down, we're watching it all.
Campbell. And Bright's now done the fastest split to the end of the first sector, so we're in a happy hour phase here with 10 laps to go. They're all starting to do Hollywood speed.
Craig Lowndes looking back at Paul Dumbrell. That could so easily have been a mirror image of Dean Canto's crash from race 2, but he got away with it. Nice work. Here it is.
He's just gone a little wide at 7, got onto the slightly wet verge there, and instead of just pulling a heap of left lock on, he's just gone, okay, I know where I am, I got it. And look at the front wheels. Barely applied much in the way of opposite lock. and slots back on in front of Paul Dumbrell, but with dirty tyres. So the next couple of corners. Oh, Kelly is off the road. He was threatening to pressure Tander. He's gone off at a critical time. His brother will zoom by here as well. Why did he go off the road?
Was he close enough to Tander? Was he hassling him?
Let's hope we get a clean run to the checkered flag. Now, looks like some sprinkles of rain. Darryl said before it was very black out there. They're on slick tyres. They'll have cooled out a little. Can they get to the end in these conditions without another incident?
Weather is closing in. Time is running out. 7 laps to go. And Bright is really putting the pressure on Tander. There's a round win at stake here. If either of these two guys win, they will win the round.
Tander's got 311 points at the moment. Bright with 310. Todd Kelly, for that misdemeanor, has only gone back to 5th. It could have been worse for him. Two leaders skipping away again. Mark Winterbottom a little margin back, and look how dark and dreary it looks to the north there.
Either Darryl or Greg, if you've got your ears on, is it raining down there? Are you getting drops?
A few little tiny sprinkles now in the lane, boys, but the wind is still, you know, the same sort of strength that Darryl reported before, but a few sprinkles in the lane here now, so we could be in for more rain. I think it's coming, boys.
It certainly looks like it when they get down to this eastern end of the track, the southeastern end there. Bright very strong under brakes. Typical Concertina, though, gives the visual impression that the car's closing up and then the other one accelerates away off the hairpin. That's a little illusion, but Bright certainly looks strong in a couple of places around here. As Tander got him covered, it was 0.4 of a second last time through, and they're doing very similar sector splits.
Bright wanted it to be wet. He wanted a full wet race because he said our car's so good in the wet. McConville and Engel are fighting here. This has been a very strong showing from Cam McConville. Very frustrated in the second race to be taken out by Dean Canto, who we incidentally highlighted he was penalised for that. And he said it was so scary out there, Neil, where he could not see. And he said, but you had to keep your foot in it to try and keep your position.
I know that the safety cars help, but Russell Ingall hasn't done a bad job of recovering here as well after getting involved in all the bump and grind on the left-hand side of the exit of turn 3.
Give you a rundown. Tander, Bright, Winterbottom. The two Kellys. Rick first, then Todd. Then Stephen Richards. Lowndes is 7. Dumbrell is 8. McConville 9 and Engel 10. Then John Bow, who's having his best run of the weekend. A native Tasmanian. And then Brad Jones is in position 12 from Will Davison, who should have been much higher, if not to be taken out on 3 separate occasions. He'll be wanting to kick the cat when he gets home, won't he? Stephen Richards' best run too. So a lot of strong individual performances in the last race of the weekend, and the wipers are on. Here comes the rain.
I thought it, but I'm not sure whether I said it, but of course the Russell Ingall thing also involved the drive-through. Look at that, even with a sprinkle of rain, Tander's done the fastest split to the end of the first sector, 18.01 seconds on that lap. Stevie Richards glimpses the mirror. He's got Craig Lowndes hot on his tail at the moment. Lowndes in 7th. There's Dumbrell. Jack Daniels' car's running pretty strongly. Sometimes just on a dry track with warmth in your tyres, just the first couple of drops of rain, oddly enough, you get a little burst of extra speed. Must have something that the tyre likes in that kind of track condition. Yeah, 52.66 that lap for Garth Tander. Considering the number of miles these tyres are done, that's very quick.
Last few laps. And then this testing and trying weekend will be over for the drivers.
Jason Bright saying he's got something appearing on his windscreen that he can't work out what it is. Phil Keat came back and said it's rain, quite dryly. But I suppose that's a fair comment.
I'm not sure if Bright's got enough for Tander here.
No, I don't think so.
It has been a polished performance from Garth.
Unless there's a mistake made. Very even, both cars and drivers around here. They're still maintaining their pace. Bright was actually a 10th quicker on the split to the middle of the circuit on this lap. Jason scares me. They've just dropped off a bit of pace now. 53.1s for both of them. Winterbottom 53.8. Jason scares me when he comes through turn 7 past the pits here, because the right rear every time is about 3 thou from being in the grass there. He really plays the margins, but he's driving the car beautifully to the maximum.
Water on the lens of our cameras tells you the story, doesn't it? It's getting extra challenging out there now. Last 2 laps. Tander for the second victory, and it will be consecutive round victories here at Symmons Plains.
Very consistent lap speed there. Look at that. All high 52s. That's drivers totally in sync with their cars that are well set up, and they're just squeezing them to the absolute limit, not making mistakes. Great driving, great to watch.
One more lap.
52.9 for both of them on that lap, Tander and Bright.
And Garth Tander will have his 6th race victory of the season.
Look for checkered next time round, mate.
Yes, that's right. The checkered will be waiting. There are the 2 Kelly brothers to running positions 4 and 5.
So 290 points recorded to Rick Kelly this weekend. Craig Lowndes 187. Assuming they stay as they are, they've got a little less than 2.4 kilometres to run. What a round. Really changed the complexion of this championship. 2 corners to go.
Last year, Garth Tander did all 3 races. Victory in all 3. He's got 2 of the 3 this weekend. Not too bad, and he gets another round victory.
Drive, GT, brilliant, mate. 2 in a row for Tassie.
That's right, 2 in a row for Tassie. 2005, 2006. Garth Tander does it. Congratulations to him. Solid performance, and he gets the round victory by a solitary point over Jason Bright.
Good job, GT. Bloody good job.
And Garth said well done to his team on the radio. He said what a great recovery after yesterday. So that was a terrific victory for him. Only half a second between Garth Tander and Jason Bright in the final analysis, and Mark Winterbottom for 3rd. So plenty of good stories to tell there for both Ford Performance Racing and for the Toll HSV dealer team. Craig Wilson from Walkinshaw Performance. And Craig Lowndes just reiterating 7th place, and I think that's a mighty recovery too when you consider that he was so far back after that first race yesterday. And actually to record 187 points after that kind of disaster is a pretty spectacular result, even though right now he won't be thinking that.
VB scoreboard gives us the results, and the Toll HSV dealer team are on a real high at the moment. Their younger driver, Rick Kelly, leads the championship, and Tander picks up another round victory, another race victory, and he is finishing out this season, as he did last year, in fact, on a real high note. He wanted to be the champion this year. It's a long ask, it's a hard ask for him to do it now, but he will assist his teammate in getting it, that's for sure, and they are the team to beat right now. We go back and show you the lower positions, and you have to feel for Will Davison, don't you? Got nailed 3 times, and that car was flying. Well done, John Bow, Brad Jones for Team VOC, just outside the top 10. And, well, Max Wilson in the thick of some incidents, Paul Morris too, and so too Canto Luff and Shane Price for that matter. And Jason Richards got turned around when he was in a very strong position. Here's Leanne Tander, that's Garth's wife. She's a very accomplished racer herself. Formula Ford, production cars, and this year Formula 3. She's running to her man to give him a big kiss and a cuddle and congratulate him, because it was a stunning performance from the lanky West Australian. There he is. Awesome stuff from Garth Tander. He's shown them again 2 years in a row here in Tasmania. I asked him about it actually earlier in the weekend. Why so strong here? And he said, I don't know, it's just one of those places. Ever since the first time I came here in Formula Fords, I just liked it. Did really well. Darryl.
Well, Todd Kelly, I know you're disappointed with that mistake, but a tough weekend with the weather and the conditions and the dirt on the circuit.
I was. We had a really fast car all weekend. I just had to take too many risks after qualifying. I actually jammed it in first over the crest there in the shootout, and otherwise we would have been probably on the front row. So from then I just had to take too many risks to try and get back up, and that's what happened. So, you know, no regrets. I wanted to have a bit of a crack at it, and we still ended up finishing. So
cars have got good pace, Todd. When you're there, it's strong. So you've got to be looking forward to Bahrain and Phillip Island.
Yeah, for sure. The circuit at Bahrain is a little bit like China, and our cars really suit both the surface and the style of track. So I need to win a few rounds before the end of the year, so hopefully we get a good run in those two.
Well done, Todd.
Thanks.